What's going on, guys? It's Charr here, back with a new series. I'm not sure how frequent this will be, but I'm calling this one Deck Doctor, and today we are talking about Tigra, specifically in the protection aspect. Now, in a quick primer, what this series is going to be, it's basically going to be talking through and the process I went through deck building and exploring a hero in a specific aspect, trying to get them to work in a playstyle that I want them to work in, one they're good at, or something in between, something that's really tuned to me as a player. The character specifically, or somewhere in between. We're talking about Tigra and kind of like my journey on this like kind of week early. Happy official Civil War release date, at least in the United States. But I got the box a tad earlier, so I'd been playing Tigra here and there in protection and trying to really figure out a deck that felt really good and fun for her in a way that I wanted it to work. So that's basically the whole premise of today's video. So I hope you guys will enjoy. No gameplay today, just talking through the deck building, my original deck, and kind of the changes I made and things I found out about the character. Before we get into that, I want to just quickly shout out the Discord. There's a ton of great topics that happen in here, a ton of great conversation, especially in the general chat with a couple of the members. It's not a very big server at all, but of course, if you want to be part of these discussions or maybe suggest video ideas, talk about decks, talk about heroes, talk about the game in general, feel free to join up. It's a ton of fun. But with that little thing out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Tigra. So I want to actually talk about Tigra and her kit really quickly, because I think it's really important to understand why I not necessarily struggled, but kind of why I was drawn to the character initially out of Hulkling out of the box, and kind of explain kind of her cards, some things I realized as I played her, and kind of how that influenced my first round of deck building for her. Right now I'm kind of sorting out her cards right here, because I forgot I didn't actually have the count. She's not actually up on Marvel CDB, so when we go to that section, we're actually using Spider-Man as a proxy. And if you guys hadn't thought about this, she's a lot closer to Spider-Man than you'd initially think. Not just her stat spread, but she's her economy, especially, has a lot of minions out. She's very rich. Specifically, she's rich in the card draw aspect, which is very reminiscent to the original core box Peter Parker. Of course, her stat spread is also very similar. And she has like a resource generator. She has bad thwarting, which you could also say is pretty reminiscent of Peter and whatnot. So that's kind of what we're doing here. I'm just kind of sorting the cards out real quick in front of me. We got cat-like reflexes next, and we'll just go from there. Okay, got cat-like reflexes. We've got these two. I don't really know the order of her cards. Okay, got them sorted. So I want to talk about Tigra real quick. So when we look at Tigra, she is a 6 hand size, 5 hand size hero form. Greer Nelson with 3 recovery. Her undercover work action on her alter ego says she searches her deck and discard pile for a copy of Hunted and add it to her hand, limit once per round. This is the Hunted card. Essentially, it's a 0 cost upgrade that has a cost for it. You search the encounter deck and discard pile for a minion and put it into play engaged with you. Hunted gets attached to that minion and they are stunned. As an interrupt, whenever the attached minion is defeated, ready Tigra. So okay, it gives her a little bit of a tempo boost. When that minion in front of you is defeated, you do get a ready. You don't even have to be the one to defeat it, which I think is really good design, and I think it's really key here, because if you get like a really unlucky exhaust, you have to basic defend. If you have some way to deal damage, you can get that ready up and get another attack. It's really, really good design. I found it really fun in use. Another key part of this Hunted card is on your hero side, which is 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense, which is why I said really reminiscent of the core box Peter Parker. She has kind of a constant ability here that says each minion with a copy of Hunted attached loses guard. So essentially, if you want all these minions to sit in front of you, you can blank out the guard keyword, which is really good, which means you can damage the villain freely. It doesn't blank out patrol, but as you'll see, her thwarting is not very good, even in the slightest. I'll be honest with you. So it's not like a huge deal that it doesn't blank that out. And then she has a response on the hunt after the player phase begins. So it's not the beginning of your turn, it's at the beginning of the player phase if you're playing in multiplayer. Solo, it's essentially the same thing. You draw 1 card for each minion engaged with you to a maximum of 3. So kind of like the alarm bells, or kind of like, things are going off in my head when I read this, because I'm like, how do we maximize how many cards you can draw every turn? Because being able to stay in hero form and drop 8 cards every turn, plus being able to make use of her resource generator, which we might as well get to. She generates a physical resource for each minion engaged with you to a maximum of 3 physical resources. So being able to drop to 8 cards every turn along with a triple resource generator every turn seemed really strong and really cool and fun, and felt like it could really, go into these really big beefy cards. You can play like Helicarriers or Avengers Mansions, or kind of like things on the table to help you advance the game state or help people advance their own game states because you have so much money. I mean, 8 card hands and a triple resource generator every turn is not nothing in the slightest. So that's kind of the idea I wanted to when I was making her in protection, that I felt protection was really realistically the only aspect that you can consistently stay in hero form the entire game with 3 minions in front of you. But let's go ahead and go through the rest of her kit really quickly because I do think it's important. So that's her 2-cost upgrade here. She does have a 2-cost support as well. Precinct HQ, it is a unique card. Location as an alter ego action. Exhaust Precinct HQ. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. Remove 1 additional threat for each minion engaged with you. So in my opinion, in solo, this is actually pretty decent, especially if you want to flip down, because removing that 1 threat is essentially like the threat ticking up every turn. But the bigger problem with it is if you're not running like Informant or Justice or someone to confuse them. She does have ways to confuse minions in kit, but I wouldn't say it's super reliable. The minions that are engaged with you for every additional threat you take off, unless they have a thwart stat of like 0 or a scheme stat of 0, this isn't really going to get you any value. If anything, it's just your flips are going to put you behind in kind of like that threat war. But I think this card is really interesting. I think it's really cool, and it can sort of be built around. Just in this build, specifically in protection, this card was passed up every single time. I literally had to have nothing else in my hand for me to play this card. I guess it is helpful in thinning your deck out a bit. But you'll see kind of as I go through my iterations of the decks I made, thinning my deck wasn't ever really an issue in either variation. So now that we have that done, for some reason Moon Knight is not on here. I think it's the only one of her cards remaining that isn't on here. Cat-like Reef, or what's it called, Feline Sense isn't on here either. Well, I'll try and put it up to the camera really quick. She has a 1-cost ally here, Moon Knight. What's it called? 1 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. As a forced response, what he does is that, similar to the Hunted upgrade, after he enters play, you start seeing counter deck and discard pile for a minion, and you put into play engaged with you, stun and confuse that minion. I think this minion is crazy in every single player count. I think this is arguably one of the best cards in her entire deck. Being able to give you that stun and confuse means that even if you want to flip down and do like the Precinct HQ build, that minion will not scheme for you for a turn. The trade-off is when you defeat that minion, you're not actually readying up anymore, but he has a 2/2 stat line with 3 health on a 1-cost minion. You really don't want to chump with him after the first activation if you can help it. Get 2 activations and chump with him, or even better, get 3 activations, 1 cost for like 6 attack or 6 thwarting. Super good, especially for a hero with such a low thwart stat. He's very good, and I found myself playing him essentially every single time he goes in my hand without fail. He really just is that good. I'll go over a thwart event real quick because I feel like this is another card that doesn't have a ton to do with the build I did specifically. A lot of her Cat-like Reflexes or thwart event and Tooth and Claw are all superpowers, so I did put Death Focus in the deck, but this is a 2-cost event. We have Feline Senses here. You can't really read it. Oh, kind of. Superpower Thwart. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, you can stun a minion. So this is kind of like your built-in stun to kind of stun up the minions after that initial stun falls off with Hunted, or another way, as you'll see later, to kind of keep that minion in front of you. The problem is when you go into a multiplayer game or really high, high player count games, you can coordinate this and it does work. And there were times I was able to be like, hey, call an action here, let me clear this, unless the Justice player or someone else had a kicker on clearing the scheme. Let me clear this so I can stun this minion in front of me. I haven't found specifically what I need to survive these minion attacks, so the stun is actually very helpful. Or you could give that stun to someone else if you're already set up. It's not a bad card by any means, but again, as her only 2 thwart events in the deck and a 1 printed thwart stat, thwarting is not her strong suit for sure. Then we move on. I guess we'll do the superpowers now. 2 copies of Cat-like Reflexes are in her deck, which is this card. It is a 1-cost upgrade superpower. When you would take any amount of damage, discard Cat-like Reflexes, prevent 3 of that damage, then you may confuse a minion engaged with you. This is another example where it's like if you take a really big hit or you just want to prevent some damage, you can confuse a minion, which gives you kind of alter ego access in a way. Especially if you have the Precinct HQ down, you can confuse a minion, get an extra threat off a scheme, not have to worry about him activating, and then flip back up, defeat it on your own terms. I really like this just for it's almost like a, endurance that you can reset. You get multiple copies in a deck pass. It's really good for preventing damage, especially if you want to stay up the entire time. I really did like this card. And yeah, it could be like, what's it called, a resource thing. You get anything else to play. You can play it off the Death Focus because it is a superpower. Really, really good. The card I thought was absolutely crazy bonkers. We'll finish out with the last superpower card. Tooth and Claw. She has 3 copies of it in her deck. It is a 4-cost event, which essentially says attack superpower, reduce the cost to play this event by 1 for each minion engaged with you. So that's already a crazy line of text, because at minimum, even if you're starting an alter ego and you just tutor hunt it and play it, this will always be like, not always at minimum, especially if you clear your minions for some reason, but that goes into kind of like the play patterns and the things you figure out when you play the character. You always want 1 or 2 minions in front of you if you can help it, because it really brings her to life, brings her online with that card draw and her resource generator and everything in between. So reduce the cost to play this event by 1 for each minion engaged with you. So usually it'll be a 3 for 8, but I'd say oftentimes it's a 2 for 8 or 1 for 8. Hero action attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy, deal 4 damage to an enemy. It's like a swinging web kick that's actually modular in damage. You can split 4 and 4 here or 4 and 4 on the same enemy. Extremely good card. Every single time it was in my hand, I played it without fail. It's just like a really good tempo play. If you see him early before you're really going on your build, it kind of sucks because she doesn't have any other damage in her kit. She has damage reduction, she has threat removal, and then her last thing that she has is 2 copies of her Sharp Claws. As a weapon, 1 cost, interrupt, and you make a basic attack, exhaust Sharp Claws. Tigra gets +1 attack, and then you can choose to either give it overkill or piercing. I think this is really good, especially if you're going like the minion slayer route, if you're going like in a leadership or maybe a aggression or a justice where you need the extra damage. I found it useful in protection too, but since the idea was that I was trying to stay up, most of the time I found myself basic defending, and of course if I got a ready off Indomitable or other cards in my deck, I was able to use the Sharp Claws to kind of deal with threats on the board, or maybe one of my minions was just getting out of hand, I need to get rid of him and reset a hunted or something. But it's a really good card. The fact that she can have 2 of them down, which means you can do a piercing hit on like 2 different enemies that might have tough statuses, especially if you have a ready, can be really versatile. Just overkill and piercing are extremely versatile keywords in my opinion, and I think she gets a great use out of them. I think it's a really clever design to have both of them in the deck, and I think it's clever in different ways where Tigra, since she draws up a lot of cards, she wants to be able to play multiple cards a turn. Having like 4 copies of 1-cost cards in her actual hero kit means some of those like awkward turns where you need to find some place for these resources to go. These are really good options for you to just get them down on the table, and that's kind of that incremental advantage I really wanted out of this hero when I first saw her, when I was really intrigued kind of like by her design space and whatnot. And being this hero only form is really what intrigued me about the character first. After playing Tigra, I think I had a couple of like misconceptions early on where after playing the precon, I really thought that her, her basic activation was more important than it was. Her basic activation is important, but you don't want to like overthink it too much. A lot of times I would greedily take hits because I wanted to attack with the Sharp Claws. Most of the time it's almost worth it, just use the 3 defense. 3 defense is so much, and it's a very good stat line. Even on expert mode, you will be reducing so much damage that you take, addition with the cat-like reflexes, and you will find ways to ready up. If you draw into like a Tooth and Claw and you want to knock out one of your hunted minions, you can do that. You can have someone call an action outside of turn if you have like an aggression player who can help you ready up. Like you shouldn't like overthink her basic activation. She's not a readying hero, but her activation is good. But don't feel bad if there's turns where you just don't use the Sharp Claws. Obviously you would want to use them every turn, but being sure that you can stay up, consistently stay healthy with kind of like that 8-card hand at best and those 3 triple resources means you just get so much incremental advantage over the course of the game. The longer the game goes on, the stronger you are and the stronger you're making your team, especially in the way that I built this deck. I'm not a person who stays in hero mode the entire game if I can help it. I really do like flipping this game. I like flipping down, but I thought Tigra, just like reading into her cards and the card draw, it made so much sense to just try and maximize it in this deck that I specifically wanted to make. This is talking a lot of beating around the bush of kind of the first, about this deck list, the so-called deck list that we haven't seen yet. Let's talk about my first draft of the deck list. So, like I said, when I wanted this kind of ideal situation to draw up 8 cards every turn with a triple resource, I was like, what aspect can help me accomplish that? And I think the answer always came back to protection. So if we look here, this is the first deck list. So like I said, we're using Spider-Man as a base here because a Tigra is not actually on Marvel CDB, but this is kind of getting the general idea of the deck down. So let's talk about this deck. So we've got Daredevil here. This is the 2-cost ally that says, like, when Daredevil takes a damage, you can, like, put 1 damage back on the attacking enemy. I think it's after he takes an attack or something like that. We have the 3-cost Iceman ally, which is a 3-cost ally that essentially says when a minion enters play, you can stun that minion. It gets 3 freeze counters after a minion enters play. You can remove 1 to stun that minion. Then we also had North Star in the deck. I kind of do like this ally, but my opinion's been changing on him. As an interrupt, what North Star does, he says that when a boost card is turned up face up during an attack, you can deal 1 damage to him and just cancel all the boost icons on that card. Super good at preventing damage from multiple people on the table without actually having to chump block with him or defend with your hero. And then finally we had Victor Mancha, which I thought is a really good shout for this deck because sometimes there will be awkward turns where you don't have any way to deal with the minion damage. Victor has you covered. He's a 2-cost ally, 0 stats, 4 health, and it says reduce the damage Victor Mancha takes from each attack by 1. Essentially, he can block multiple minion activations while you're trying to get kind of like your resources up or your economy set up in order to in order to just like keep your health up, drop those 8 cards every turn, and build that incremental advantage. When we look at the rest of the deck, one thing that I found here that I really bounced off hard on the second one was Come Get Me Bub. So, you know, Tigra's a minion-focused hero. She likes minions, so it makes sense to do one of the best minion summoning cards. Come Get Me Bub says discard cards from the encounter deck until you discard a minion. Put it into play, engage with you. Heal 3 damage from your identity and give your identity a tough status card. This has everything this deck would ever want, right? It's got a tough status so you don't have to defend the villain attack. It's got a heal and it gives you a minion, which is an extra resource and an extra card, especially if you're not at your max minion limit. It sounds really good, really awesome. In practice, it just didn't work very well, and we'll get into why in a second. The next event that we had in the deck was 3 copies of What Doesn't Kill Me. I thought that this card in both iterations of the deck, spoilers, was very good. There will be damage that slips through the cracks here. Requirement Fist resource as a hero action, heal 2 damage from your hero, then ready your hero. Like I said, there will be times when you like defend and then you trigger the Indomitable and you still have to defend for either someone else on the table or maybe you get another attack activation, so you're kind of like exhausted and you can't really do anything with your claws. But if you draw into like a What Doesn't Kill Me, it kind of fixes your issue, you know, full stop. I thought it was really good, and it was a really good part of the deck, especially for a deck that wants to defend and take damage and stay in hero form the whole game. It's just a really easy access. She has the money to pay for it to be able to heal and stay up the entire game. Power of Protection, 2 copies of it as a resource. I found this card was really good, mostly because I was also playing a lot of high cost green cards. If you had another version of this deck where you're playing lower to the ground, lower cost cards, I could see not including these, but it felt really good for me. In the second version of this deck, in this first version, you might notice there's a lot of like higher costed green cards in kind of the allies, not really in the supports, not really in the upgrades, and 3 copies of an event, so maybe it didn't make sense to run 2 in this version, but that is what I decided to do. Moving on, we've got the other things we have included is the Avengers Mansion and Helicarrier. In both versions of this deck, these cards felt insanely good. I've never seen a character pay for Avengers Mansion easier in my life, especially even after you have 1 or 2 minions out. You just get so much money. You don't want to see it early, obviously, but if you see it kind of like that mid to late game, it's crazy that there was one turn on the second version of the deck list where I was able to play the Helicarrier down with my Cat's Head Amulet, that I tapped to then play down the Avengers Mansion, that I tapped to then play down like Death Focus or something, and that was like turn 3 or 4, and then I still played, I think, Tooth and Claw for like 1. Like, it was just insane how many cards she can manage to play in a turn when you want to really commit to the staying in hero mode the whole time. Hangar Bay was another really interesting card that I might have been cooking, or it might have been charred a bit too much when I was thinking of playing and making this deck list. It's really interesting, and I think you'll understand why it's in here. It's max 1 per player location. After an ally defends an attack and is still alive, I'm pretty sure it says, and is not defeated, you can exhaust this card and ready that ally. Essentially, the idea was to survive off of Victor Mancha in this deck, to essentially just take all the minion hits in front of me, and then, tap the Hanger Bay ready and then defend again, so that I don't take any damage on my identity and I can focus on like dealing damage and staying up the whole game. One copy of Anticipation is in the deck here. This is just one. It's a preparation, max 1 per player. When you engage a minion, discard this card to ready your hero. It's kind of like another copy of Indomitable, but kind of like in a different flavor. Since she wants to be seeing minions and summoning minions a lot of the times, this card is actually pretty decent. It is another upgrade for an ally we have included. But again, it was good. I kept it in the deck, but it wasn't like a showstopper. I played it a couple times, it went off, but it wasn't anything crazy. Then we have one copy of Armored Vest. This isn't actually Armored Vest. It's another target for power protection. It's the new card, Defensive Conditioning. That's essentially Armored Vest plus Endurance all wrapped up. You get +1 defense, 3 health. This card is really good. I played it every time I saw it. Def Focus is kind of self-explanatory. It's just a resource generator. She has a lot of superpowered cards. Maybe one version of this deck could even run Invulnerability if you want, because it's a superpower traded basic card, but probably too much overkill. And then rounding it out with 3 copies of Indomitable. I've talked about this a lot. Indomitable is probably my favorite protection card, specifically in the core set, and maybe even in general. I just love the idea of it being a 1-cost ready. It's just really easy to use your defense stat, and you have the guaranteed ready. There's no weirdness going on with like Desperate Defense or anything like that. Nope, you just get the ready. You defend, you get the ready. That's it. No questions asked. You can have multiple of them on the board, so you can trigger them when you want. I love Indomitable. I think it's a really, really great card. So then this was the first deck list, honestly. The only other cards I had in here, which let me see if I can bring up really quickly, is when we look here, I wonder if they were revealed or not. Oh, they might be in the creator reveals articles. The only other cards I had included in here were Yellow Jacket and I guess they didn't show off Patriot. Yeah, I didn't realize those cards were down there. Yeah, the only other 2 cards I had were like Yellow Jacket and Patriot, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, they did show off Patriot. Elijah Bradley, 3 costs, 1 thwart, 2 attack, response. After you engage a minion, give Patriot a tough status, 3 health. I thought this ally was fine. The biggest problem was that after you get set up, you're really not engaging that many more new minions. So he's kind of like a 3-cost minion that can like kind of be a 4 health minion. And then at that point I was like, why don't I just play Luke Cage, because Luke Cage is guaranteed like 5 activations, and this one like can be more than Luke Cage, but you still do have to engage these minions. It's not a granted. It was just kind of slow, and it felt like he really didn't do anything, which was a very common theme of the first pass of this deck, which I want to talk about really quickly. But the second card was very good, and I definitely kept in the deck list, and he got even better in the second version. Yellow Jacket, Hank Pym, 3-cost ally, play only if you have the Avenger trait. Response after Yellow Jacket enters play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an upgrade and add it to your hand. This card's insanely good. It finds you your Cat's Head Amulet. It finds you your Hunted if you want to play another one. It finds you cat-like reflexes. It finds you your Sharp Claws. Essentially, whatever he finds will never be a dud, in my opinion. He finds you Indomitable. Like, there's just so many low-cost cards. You play so many cards that are kind of low to the ground that Hank Pym, Yellow Jacket, really does find you a lot of cards that can make your hands less awkward. He has good stats. Usually, I ended up just activating with him twice, which is pretty good because I was basic defending most of the time to stay up and healthy. That card was very, very good. But then I want to just go back to the deck list really quickly and talk about how it works. So you might think the elephant in the room here, and kind of even the thumbnail might have shown you that there's no pin down in this deck. And this was a card that was talked a lot about when talking about Tigra in the initial. And kind of, I will admit, the first pass of the deck, I was like, I want to try and make it work, this hero form only, but I don't want to use pin down. I just wanted to see if there was a way to make it work. I thought like Come Get Me Bub would give me that healthy supply of minions so that I could like stay healthy, get the tough statuses, but also like but also be able to clear some of my hunted minions so that I wasn't taking so much damage when their stuns wore off. I have stuck in here like the Hanger Bay and like Iceman and Victor Mancha to help keep me healthy from the minions in front of me. We got Anticipation, we've got Indomitables. And after playing this deck, I don't even know if these ideas didn't work, but the general idea of this deck was that it was way too passive. There's so many things that I have in this deck that are just here to prepare for the villain phase. And that's kind of the thing that I really don't like about protection, is kind of why I have like a hot take on the 1-cost protection events that I'm not a huge fan of. I think they're good. They're just, I don't find myself playing them a lot of the time. I just think they're too reactive. They're too passive, and I don't really like playing protection that way. Iceman is a very passive ally. Once you've activated with him twice, you want to leave him on the board so he can stun minions that come in. Daredevil is also a very passive ally. He moves damage from defending. Northstar is another very passive ally. He can reduce damage from multiple people by getting rid of these boost cards, but he doesn't do anything when he comes to the board. And then I'm drawing up 8-card hands, but then I'm looking at these hands, and it's like triple, it's like a double come get me bub, and then it's like a double resource, and then the power of protection, and then it's like Hanger Bay, and then it's like an Indomitable. And there was a lot of hands where I was drawing 8 cards a turn, and I was drawing I had a triple resource to use, and I just had nothing to play. Like, once all like the kind of bigger kind of supports are down on the table, I didn't have consistent kind of like cards to spend my money on, which was a really big problem I found. And there was a lot of small cards I could spend my money on. Like, yeah, I could get some Indomitables down, or I could play my events, and those are good. But I just felt like there was a lot of hands that, even though I was drawing a lot of cards and I was surviving for the most part, of course, it wasn't as swift or as easy as like a, swift or as easy as a pin down build could have done it, but I was surviving. But the problem is I was drawing up these 8 cards hands that didn't really do anything. So I had to hit back to the drawing board. I had a ton of different ideas here. And I was just like kind of running through them all. I was like, okay, what did I realize? Her basic activation, I really overblew her basic activation. So I thought about taking out what doesn't kill me, but I'm like, no, I'm probably still going to be taking damage. I'll keep them in there. When I was in my play, I didn't like Come Get Me Bub at all. And the main reason is that even if the stuns wear off, I'd rather have a minion in front of me that I know what it does and I know won't hurt me than get a random minion from Come Get Me Bub. I think Tigra's power is the fact that she can like curate the minions in front of her. It's like she can really choose kind of the experience she has that game without a lot of variation. You have a lot of control through Moon Knight and your hunted cards that you just want to cycle through the same 3 or 4 minions the entire game if you can help it. Come Get Me Bub, although it seems really good, it just did not work out in this build at all. I didn't like Iceman. I didn't like Daredevil. They felt way too passive, so those were switched out. Didn't like Hanger Bay. I like the idea behind Victor Mancha and Northstar. I dropped Northstar, kept Victor Mancha. Essentially, my whole idea was rebuild this deck. I had the basis to stay alive, to stay healthy, but I didn't have anything to put my money into once I had that kind of, symbiosis, kind of like that ability to stay alive and stay healthy and drop a bunch of cards. I didn't have anything to put my money into, so that's kind of where the second deck list comes, which I want to move to right now. So this is the second pass of the deck here. So as you see, 44 cards, which is kind of my staple at this point. Let's talk about some of my additions here. So first we can talk about is Iron Fist. So this is a big change, kind of what I was talking about. I wanted something big money things to put my resources into that were proactive. Iron Fist is a classic protection ally, which says when he comes into, whenever he attacks an enemy, you can remove a counter from him to stun that enemy and deal 1 damage to it. Essentially, this helps me defend for the table in a different way because I am in protection, especially if the villain doesn't have steady or stalwart. It's a very good ally. Of course, he can get swapped out if there is steady or stalwart, but he's a very good ally. He has a good health. He doesn't have to wait a turn for his effects to happen. He can just swing for 2, throw that stun on. He's dealing damage. He's slowing down the villain. It's just a really good thing to invest my money into. Thought he was really good. So you give another really good investment for money. We have Starhawk. Combos really well with our power of protection, and also combos really well when we're not really set up for our survivability. Depending on the minions in front of us, we can kind of modulate Starhawk's HP by either thwarting or attacking that turn to have him chump block a minion defense for us, save our health pool, while also putting him back to my hand because of his interrupt. When Starhawk takes damage equal to his remaining hit points, he gets returned to the hand. Super, super good ally, and he's felt super, super good in this deck. I felt like this was a card that I completely looked over the first pass. it's kind of like Victor Mancha in a way. They can defend the minions for you, but Starhawk gets you that economy back. Victor Mancha stays on the board that whole time, and the idea that he can bounce back and forth between your hand actually makes him a bit more versatile, because sometimes there's not a ton of allies in this deck, but you can kind of get like a ton of allies on your board that you want to keep there. And so that's that. Of course, Black Cat as Moon Knight here is also really good. Victor Mancha stays in the deck. Very similar reason to Starhawk. What you want him to do is you want him to eat the minion hits when you're not really set up yet, because once you flip up, you really almost never want to flip down unless you are forced to. The final one here is, it says War Machine. This is the Yellow Jacket ally, and you'll see the reason why the Yellow Jacket ally feels so crazy in this deck is because we did throw in the 3 copies of Pin Down. This is the card I didn't want to build around, but when I played that deck originally, I'm like, why am I doing all these things with Hanger Bay and like the Daredevil ally and Victor Mancha? Why am I doing all this? Let me just play the Pin Down. And it's super good in this deck because of that Yellow Jacket ally. Tigra having that Avengers keyword is important for so many different reasons, but it's also really important because you can just search out Pin Down. It's like extremely good, and I thought it would be limited to like an identity specific event, but it's totally not. So it just gives you another thing that Yellow Jacket can find for you. Just add that upgrade and instantly throw it on the minion in front of you. Boom, that's it. You don't have to worry about that minion essentially for the rest of the game. It's so good, and it's so good for Tigra because you're investing 1 resource to keep that minion in front of you the whole game, to just continually draw and generate a value, a card and a resource off it every single turn. So that's why, you know, what's it called? That's why Yellow Jacket is just insanely good in this deck. We have 15 targets that it can hit, or sorry, I forgot these are the Spider-Man ones. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we have 9 targets in aspect and basic cards, not even counting the cat-like reflexes, which is 2 more, and the claws, which is 2 more. So what is that? 13 targets in the deck. I might be missing some other ones, but 13 targets that he can hit off of his ability. Super good, super versatile. Sometimes you'd want to get a hunted. Sometimes you want to find the Pin Down. Sometimes an Indomitable is even the right call. He's just super good, really great ally, and really pulled his way in this deck specifically. Another thing that I wanted a proactive way of spending money on is Hard Knocks. This card is insanely good in my opinion, and it's really good because you're staying in hero mode the whole time. You can kind of modulate when people are dealing with minions on the board or threats on the board. You can be like, hey, let me call this action real quick. Let me get my tough status card and help you out with that. It's kind of like that 2-in-1 where, okay, now I don't need a basic defend on my activation, so I can defend for somebody else. And then maybe even ready out Indomitable, defend for somebody else. Essentially, these proactive plays are letting me make choices, educated choices based on the board state, on how I can defend for the table, how I can bring value to the table, rather than waiting for the villain phase to bring all of my value and dealing with like the RNG and the randomness that this game can bring you during the villain phase. We're still on 3 copies of What Doesn't Kill Me because it's just a very good card, and I found it very good in this one too. We're going to skip Med Team for now because I want to talk about Night Nurse is another card I overlooked here. Essentially because I'm thinking on multiplayer, I'm kind of being the support-ish character. Night Nurse is really good. It can heal damage from you and let you like get rid of a stun or a confuse. But also it's just in here because it can heal 3 damage for yourself so you don't have to flip down. But most of the time I would give this to other allies or members on my multiplayer games who needed to thwart or needed to attack and needed to get rid of the status card. Anticipation is still in here. That 2-cost new defensive conditioning is still in here. 3 copies of Domino and Death Focus. Med Team, let's talk about this card. So this card is in here because I think it's more applicable in more scenarios. Essentially what this is one of the only kind of reactive cards, or it's still not really reactive, but this is one of the only slower cards I kept in the deck. And the main reason was it keeps you up, but it also keeps your friends up as well. Sometimes there's a ton of attacks that come out in the villain phase. You don't have all the readies to defend for all of them, even through your Indomitables and Anticipation. Sometimes you just need to give someone a little bump to their HP stat. Now, a Dr. Sinclair could probably make its way into a version of this deck. I never flipped down in the multiple games I tested this new version of the deck. You just don't need to with the Pin Down and the minions in front of you. So this is just something that to invest to help the table some more. Maybe you even go even further into this idea and run a second wind, but I like Med Team because 3 for 6 healing is really good. Even though it's a bit slow, you do get a ton out of it. I found myself in the games healing myself a lot. I found myself healing allies sometimes. That was probably the rarest one, but also other people's identities was the second most common, I would say. But the reason why I say this one is controversial, because depending on kind of like the table and the difficulty you're playing on, the one key card that I think really brings this deck together, similar to Yellow Jacket, we have another card here which is really good, which is Muster Courage, which is a card that I think got looked over a lot, mostly because we haven't had Avengers in a long time. This is another really key version of Tigra and her traits being Avenger on our hero side. This card is insanely good. Tigra has so many resources, especially in this pin down build. She has 8 cards a turn and that triple resource she can use every turn. You could even play 2 Muster Courages. It's just a really huge resource sink, similar to Med Team. It just depends on the mode you're playing. I say Med Team is more flexible. There is a lot of A and B villains in the game. There's a lot of people who only play Standard. And when I go to a public gaming event, I don't want to force Expert on anybody. But if you know you are trying to win and you're sitting down for some Expert games with people, Muster Courage is so insanely good. You can give up to 3 tough status cards to any number of characters. So let's say like you don't need it because you got your tough from Hard Knocks. Let's say you're starting on stage 2 on Expert. Give 2 of the people in the multiplayer game the tough. You will essentially already blocked almost an entire villain phase, and you had 8 other cards in your hands left to do other things with. This is the biggest thing that I said, where I wanted to make proactive plays, and then when I can't make those proactive plays, I have a way to give my resources to other people. There was a ton of times in the games where I could play my event, and I could play like Tooth and Claw, I can do all these other things, and I'd still have resources left over. I look at my 8 card hand and 3 resources available. I'm like, I don't need my Avengers or my Helicarrier. So when you think about this, it's kind of like the ultimate protection build. It's the ultimate table support build, and I had a ton of fun playing it. You have these minions in front of you that you thin the encounter deck. Sometimes the really bad minions are in front of you because lowering their attack by pin down means they're nullified for the rest of the game. Sometimes you have the weenies in front of you. It's kind of like a give or take. So you're getting minions out of the encounter deck, but you're also healing people with the Med Team or giving them toughs with Muster Courage, and you're also giving people Helicarriers or Avengers Mansions to make their turns better. You're also dealing with board control with really efficient events such as Tooth and Claw, and because you have so much money, you can actually pay for your 3-cost thwart event and maybe stun minions, engage with other people, or help them take them out. She just has like so many answers. Your allies can take the blocks from your minions because you'll be getting toughs from your Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks is kind of like this mixed tempo card. Really good tempo card. As long as you can knock something out, you get the tough and you can help someone with a thing in front of them. I just found that at the end of the day that this deck list really came together in a major way, and in a way that was really fun, and in a way that I don't normally play the game. I love flipping down in this game, but I also do love protection a lot, but a lot of the protection decks I play are not like perfect defense. They're not protect the table, and they're certainly not always hero mode only. The closest I ever had to that was a Spider-Man protection deck, but that was cheating it every turn with Ready for a Fight, because Spider-Man's alter ego is so good, you want to go to it every turn. This one, I had games where I literally never flipped down. I would flip up the first turn, and that was it. You play down the Hunt to get a minion in front of you. Then maybe you play down the Yellow Jacket if it's in your hand, or a Moon Knight. You get another minion in front of you. They're both stunned, so nothing happens to you. You draw up 5 cards, 2 more. Maybe you find the Yellow Jacket. Your Yellow Jacket finds your Amulet. Your Amulet lets you play a 3rd card from your hand, and then you're off to the races at that point. Use your basic defense to defend you from the villain attack. Throw some pin downs when you grab them into your hand, and just draw and keep building this advantage. The fact that there's so many resource sinks and actual proactive cards in this version of the deck compared to the other version of the deck really made it a ton of fun to play. And yeah, a lot of talking, a lot of theory going on in kind of like this deck, Doctor. I hope this was even the slightest bit entertaining for you guys. I know you guys haven't had a chance to get your hands on Tigra, but I did want to talk about kind of my journey with the deck. I'm kind of figuring out what really fixed it, and of course pin down was what fixed it. It might have been like a 40-minute video to talk about how good pin down is, but it is really truly good in Tigra, and I hope you guys give it a chance. I hope you guys, I think I'll do a disclaimer. This is not the buy-all, end-all way to play Tigra in protection. She probably has so many other cool things she can do. But if you're looking for like kind of the fantasy of like big hands, 8-card hands every turn, triple resource, this is the deck that can do it, and it can do it consistently, and it feels fun to play. I think supporting the table is fun. Maybe you want to go a more event focus. Maybe you want to take out the med teams and the mustard courage, even though I think they're insanely good. Maybe you want to go like a tackle or something, or put in like more protection events in the deck to like deal damage or do something like that. Go for it. I think Tigra is a ton of fun, but I want to try her out in different aspects now for sure. But I think I'm going to be moving my focuses to Hulkling now. I haven't had a ton of games on him at all since I've got the box. So I want to try exploring some decks with him, see what I find fun, and maybe we get another one of these for him. And no promises, though. What do you guys think about this video, this format, and whatnot? Tell me down in the comment section down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.